Remember that time that Alabama's roster situation felt chaotic and there were so many changes and who was going to come onto the staff and who was going to do this and who was going to do that and who was going to stay and who was going to leave, who was going to commit, who was going to decommit? Kalen DeBoer has settled that situation down and gotten Alabama's roster not to where it was under Nick Saban. I don't think this is a top 5 roster in college football, but has it improved dramatically over the last month? Yes. Unquestionably. Many moons ago, I recorded a segment here on the show and took a lot of very hurtful blowback, I will say, in the comment section, in which I said that Alabama's roster was not top 15 in all of college football. That was very controversial, very, very controversial. Well, time has passed. And Kalen DeBoer has made some notable additions. The latest one is Keon Sabb. So Alabama lost a player by the name of Caleb Downs. You might have heard of him. He came in as a true freshman. He was, let's just say, an all-around stud on the back end of that defense. If you were going to go about and try to replace Caleb Downs with an instant impact transfer that could be almost all, perhaps, of what Downs' potential is, maybe a slightly lower ceiling, but give you a plug-and-play starter that will continue being a plus player at that position, Keon Sabb is that guy. Keon Sabb was just part of one of the best defenses we have seen in all of college football in recent memory. Carried the Wolverines, or the defense did, not just Keon Sabb, of course, but that defense helped carry them to a national championship, a 15-0 season, and a win over Alabama, as it were. What a crazy time. That was like a month and a half ago that all that took place. Time flies when you're having fun, which we always try to do here on the show. So Keon Sabb is the latest addition. And since I recorded that particular very controversial segment, here's a list of players that Alabama has added. They've had some staff turnover as well. They hired Nick Sheridan as their offensive coordinator. They had a co-defensive coordinator, a defensive staff coach depart to Tennessee. William Inge is no longer going to be there, but I'll get to the coaching moves here in just a moment. I just want to talk about the roster that he's going to go with into the SEC. Alabama's win total, according to FanDuel, is at 9.5. I don't know that I've got a strong lean net. I was just letting that sit out there for a moment, just so you could think, whoa, 9.5? Ooh, boy, I don't know. Well, are they going to go 9-3? Are they going to go 10-2? We're going to see. Here's a list of players since I recorded that segment way long ago, about a month ago now. That Alabama has added. Damani Jackson, that's a former 5-star cornerback recruit. They've also got 3 5-star DBs coming in, 2 corners and a safety, 5-star receiver as well in Ryan Williams. He recommitted to Alabama. They added Niquil Betran. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Offensive tackle transfer from Texas A&M. Good luck moving him around. He's 6'6", 340 pounds. Jeremy Bernard would be a high-quality number 2 or maybe a low-end number 1 at, I don't know, every Power 4 football program in the country. He was the number 4 in Washington's receiver room last year. If you're looking for some veterans, some returning production capability, proven commodities at the receiver spots for Jalen Milroe at quarterback, assuming he doesn't get a push from Austin Mack, which I don't think he would. I don't think he would. But hey, that's why they have spring football to see how these sorts of things play out on the field rather than just on paper or in theory, of course. But Jeremy Bernard is a guy that comes into the wide receiver room and you go, oh, okay. I know what I'm getting from that dude right there. I know what he's capable of being. I don't know what Ryan Williams can be at wide receiver. I know what he could be, but I don't know what he is, right? I don't have concrete data to support the fact that Ryan Williams is going to live up to his potential. But you know what's going to help him do that? Having a veteran receiver, Jeremy Bernard is that. This is his 3rd power football program that he's been at. He was Michigan State, Washington, now at Alabama, and having someone else so that Williams isn't drawing all of the attention, assuming he's a part of the offense, which I certainly suspect him to be. So for Jeremy Bernard to be going there, yeah, that's a notable addition for Jalen Milroe, because remember, he lost Isaiah Bond. They don't have Isaiah Bond on the outside, but you add in Jeremy Bernard. I like that move quite a bit. Now they bring in Keon Sabb. They'd added Parker Brailsford, who was a freshman All-American in the one of the highest graded centers on Pro Football Focus a year ago for the Huskies. The centerpiece, pun intended there, because Troy Fautano was the best offensive lineman, but Parker Brailsford might have been second. Roger Rosengarten was very good at right tackle, but Brailsford was instrumental. There were questions about him, understandably so, going into last season. Yeah, he held down the fort and then some of the center position for a unit that went on to win the Joe Moore Award. So you've got him coming in. LT Overton is in there as well along the defensive line. He was a part of the transfer portal class. And Brailsford's in, and you got Bertrand going in there. And boy, suddenly you look up and go, so in the last month, Alabama has added how many starters in there? And one that I want to talk about in particular, because I don't know how often you can rely on true freshmen. Sometimes you can. Caleb Downs a great example of that. But he's out. Keon Sabb is in. Damani Jackson is a really interesting one to me, because Damani Jackson has all the physical traits to be an elite cornerback in college football. Is he going to be? That's going to come down to his coaching. That's going to come down to his coaching. I say that because he went to USC. I don't know that he's been sniffed around, with regards to NFL draft potential or going up boards or All-American or anything like that. You know why? He was playing football for Alex Grinch, who we can establish at this point. I don't know what Wisconsin is doing hiring him as their defensive backs coach, but okay, you do whatever you like. Alex Grinch had no business calling the USC defense the last couple of years. He had no business being that defensive coordinator at the University of Southern California. He did not. That's who Damani Jackson was learning from. But suddenly, you take a guy with his traits and some experience as well, and you give him a couple of previously head coaches on that side of the ball. Yeah, William Inge is going to Tennessee. It's another staff defection for Kalen DeBoer, but Nick Sheridan and JaMarcus Shepard are going to be the co-offensive coordinators, though Sheridan is, I believe, going to be the play caller there for the Crimson Tide. There are guys who are intimately familiar with what DeBoer wants to do offensively. We'll see who ends up actually calling the plays. Maybe it'll end up being Kalen DeBoer. But on the defensive side of the ball, back to Damani Jackson here, who this offense will have to go up against it in practice. Kane Womack was the head coach at South Alabama. Went 22-16. Maurice Linguist was the head coach at Buffalo. Those are the two guys headlining the defensive staff for Kalen DeBoer and company. So you bring in players like Keon Sabb and Damani Jackson. You were already bringing in LT Overton, and suddenly that Alabama roster is just crawling up the roster rankings from where it was a month ago. It's not a top 5 roster in all of college football. But is it back inside the top 10? It certainly feels that way, because when in a month's time you add up to 5 new starters, 2 of which are going to be on the defensive side of the ball, these are tangible moves in the right direction. And I think that for Alabama, it could very well come down to how well does Jalen Milroe fit into Kalen DeBoer's offense. Because when you watch what Milroe did a season ago, it is not like what Michael Penix did at Washington. Not at all. Now, Milroe's deep ball developed greatly over the course of the year. His passing ability was something that improved tremendously in the second half of the season, helped propel Alabama to the SEC championship and the run to the Rose Bowl in the college football playoff semifinal, where they ultimately lost to Michigan. But what was the final play call of Nick Saban's career? Weird thing to say, but it was. It was a quarterback run. It was an option. He could have swung it out, but decided to take off and run. Well, that's not something that Kalen DeBoer and his offensive staff were doing a whole heck of a lot of last year with Michael Penix. They want a quarterback who will sit, slice, and dice you from the pocket. Can Jalen Milroe do that? That, more than anything, may define Alabama's success in 2024. How well does that quarterback, Jalen Milroe, fit into that offense? Because DeBoer has run this system in Indiana. He did it at Fresno State. He did it at Washington. He's not adapting to the players on the field. He's going to run his system and see if the players can adapt to what he does. That'll be the question for the Crimson Tide. Lots of roster moves, lots of staff moves for Kalen DeBoer and company. But overall, I think he has steadied the ship. The boat was rocking. It was going side to side like Pirates of the Caribbean when Jack Sparrow's rocking the ship. But now they flipped it upside down. Up is down. And they have come back from the land of the dead. Appreciate everyone listening. I'll see you next time. And until then, hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.